Hey everyone, Robyn Papworth from Play Movie Proof. I have Ash here from Smashed It Dance Company. We've had a few technical glitches today, so take it away, Ash.
Hi everyone. So the plan was to do a self-care session on my page today at 3:30. We had some hilarious times trying to get this done. I think we tried maybe 4 different lives. Then we're like, great, we'll move everyone to a meeting and we'll film it. And Robyn pressed record in Zoom. I filmed my screen, and you would not believe we did not press record. And I did film the screen, but I didn't film any sound. So we thought, stuff it, take 2, and then we're just going to go with the flow. And we managed to push it to live. So here we are, the first self-care Sunday, and I'm so happy to be talking to Robyn. Now, I know we're on Robyn's page, but I'm going to take over as host today and ask Robyn a few questions. And so if you do have any questions while we're on the live, pop them in the comments and we'll try and monitor it. Now, we're newbies, so please bear with us. But we will keep an eye on the comment box and try and answer some questions. But I wanted to give you a little bit of introduction. So I run a dance studio, but it's not about producing prima ballerinas. I'm all about using dance and movement to further kids' education, and that part, a lot of what Robyn does comes into play. So I love Robyn.
Oh, thank you.
And I first came across Robyn's stuff trawling through Facebook, and I found this post about jumping, and it said how smart, I think it was something about how intelligent kids are if they can jump with their feet together by the time they're 2 or 3, or they're not meant to do it until they're about 4. And I shared it with my families that come to classes and said, our kids must be the smartest kids in the whole world because they can jump it too. And then I happened to share that post with Sharon, who is the creative director of Kinder Ballet Australia, who is also incredible. And she loved it so much that Sharon invited Robyn to come and speak at our national conference in January. And that's when I actually got to meet Robyn in person, and my mind blew. Like, I loved hearing her speak, and I learned so much, and I only got to see half of the presentation. Actually, I still need to see the other half because I was called away for another meeting. And we're going through such crazy times now, and I have gone from having a business to moving it completely online, to homeschooling my 5-year-old, having my 3-year-old out of preschool, trying to keep them quiet while my husband is talking to MDs of a global company, and also do uni. So I know that times are crazy right now. So I thought, what can I do for everyone? Let's do some self-care tips. How can we keep sane? How can we help other people that are going through this? Just some little strategies to help their kids, keep everyone healthy and happy. And that's when I thought, Robyn has got the most amazing social media pages and her blogs. I actually was on them not long before, going through them, and they're so good. So what I wanted to ask Robyn is, can you give us some little tips to help, like, how can we help our kids? A lot of people have pulled them out of school, pulled them out of preschool, and have no idea what to do. So what are your helpful tips to get us going through this time?
Oh, thanks, Ash, and thank you so much for your patience with all this technology. Thank you, everyone else, for all of your patience with this technology. I have 2 hats. I have a therapist hat and I have a mum hat. My therapist hat lives inside a textbook and, of course, has all the evidence of our children should have 150 minutes of exercise per day, and children should get outside because vitamin D is amazing, and limit screen time to less than 2 hours a day. And then I have mum hat going, how do we do that? I don't know.
Tell me.
At the moment in Melbourne, it's raining. It's been raining for the past 2 to 3 days. We haven't been able to go outside. It's all been indoors. So first things first, it's about expectations. You know, my expectation, I'm the play lady. I'm known as the play lady. And unfortunately, I've had to adjust that. I can't maintain my play therapy sessions as I usually would in my textbook life. I can't achieve 150 minutes of children's exercise per day, but I can do 5, or I can do 30 minutes, or I can do some days an hour. How amazing. but it's just whatever the day is. And I think it's, if we can really get back to the basics of what do we need in this situation. This situation isn't in our textbooks. I don't have social isolation in my textbook behind me. I have a clinical ward behind me, or I have a classroom set up. It's so different to what we're dealing with at the moment. We've both got kinder kids at home, and both of our kinder kids, you and I, Ash, are pretty rowdy kinder kids. So we've got our hands full. So what I'm trying to say to lots of families is it's important that, yes, movement is really important, but we've got to combine it so we have a bit of sanity. So probably the main things that I'm doing at the moment is I'm combining literacy, numeracy, and movement all in the one activity, really. So for example, today I was standing in the kitchen. I got Phoebe's plates. Phoebe loves to help with setting up snacks for everyone. So I set up the plates in a rainbow arc. You know, you love my rainbow worksheet. So I set it up in a rainbow arc. And all I got her to do was just count out the snacks for Isla, Hugh, and Phoebe. I knew that she was getting a bit of cross in the midline because she had to reach for the packets and reach for the plates. I knew that she was going to get literacy because what we were doing was we were talking about, you know, apricot bite starts with at, those sorts of things. And then, of course, counting. She was counting how many there were. That's enough, really. That's kinder and play and learning in one. But at the moment, there's so much online about everything has to be, you know, high expectation, homeschooling. I'm not a homeschooler. I've never been a homeschooler. I can't take on that role. So it's just trying to get expectations. And it's probably been great for me. Over the last 2 weeks, I've had to completely be creative. I had to completely change what I would expect for Hugh and Isla, particularly as they come home from school, because I have them all day. It's exhausting to give poor Hugh a home therapy program when he's had enough. He's had me all day. So I think the main thing is for your teams and for us is, you know, we want to just be able to have this. It's not ever going to be the session that we're used to having. It's just going to have to be the resources we have at home and whatever we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I am struggling big time. And even the pushback, like the kids, it's so new to them. Yes, they love their screens. Yes, they love watching movies and being on the iPads and everything. But when absolutely every part of their learning is pushed to the virtual world, it's so hard for them to comprehend. So what do you do when you do get pushback?
Oh, well, a lot. So even with the screen time, you know, we've gone to your beautiful dance classes online, and I've said to you, like, Phoebe gets to see you online, and she's like, no, I want to go dancing. I don't want to do it on my phone or the TV. I want to go to dancing. So we're going to have that confusion from our little ones. And it's just, again, explaining, like, soon we will. Let's hope we will. For now, we have to do screen time. But it's also being mindful of what we do after screen time. I can't get away screen time. Like, screen time for all of us is inevitable. Harvey Norman are loving it at the moment because everyone's buying an iPad. Fantastic. But what that does for our development, absolutely. I'm concerned for children's visual tracking. I'm concerned for children's head movement, their hand-eye coordination. But all in all, at the moment, it's parent sanity. Parent sanity, number one. So all I would do after screen time is just do that visual tracking, head movement activities. My beautiful followers, you know where all that is on my website. And if you don't, please have a look on my website. But the main thing is lots of looking up and down. So even if it's after they play and they've been on screens for a while, it's just tapping a balloon up above their head, or it's pushing a ball back and forth in plank position. It's trying to put their head in a different position and get them to follow a moving target. It might be the beautiful ribbons that you use in your dance sessions. It might be a ball, it might be a balloon, it could be anything. But it's doing the opposite to what screen time does, which is just still head and eye movement.
Yeah, and it's such an important thing even before coronavirus or COVID-19. Screen time and apartment living was so much on the rise that it was dance classes and gymnastics and karate were becoming less of a luxury and more of a necessity to get the kids' development up to where it should be. Yes. And now all of a sudden we're just like, oh, we're not allowed. Cool.
I know. And for me, having Hugh with a developmental delay, karate was his thing. He doesn't want me to be his therapist. He wants his sensei back. So we've been really lucky. I have to give Edge Martial Arts a plug. They've given us karate online. It's not the same, you know. Hugh is his sensei, but at least it's like this Facebook Live world where he can go, hi, sensei, and then sensei can write in the comments, hey, Hugh. It's that connection. But I think some children are really struggling because that was their go-to. That was dancing was their go-to. Like Phoebe, devastated that she can't go to dancing. So it's trying to get them through that, but also we really need to support our small businesses because I want to be able to go back to karate. I want to be able to go back to dancing and gymnastics. And I really feel for you guys. And that's why I'm so excited to share my wisdom or wherever I can, because we've got to keep these companies going. And if online is how we do it at the moment, well, you know, better than nothing.
It is. So what would be the one tip? I know we're talking about keeping our sanity. So what's the most important sort of exercise? Is it crossing the midline? Is it working on your pincer grip? What do we need to do? What do we need to focus on?
Good question. How long do I have?
How long is a piece of string?
Exactly. Really, it's whatever the children's goals are. So say, for example, for Hugh's goals at the moment are fine motor, especially at schools. He's now in grade 2. He's got to smash out a lot of sentences now. So he's got to be able to write lots of writing, and his little hands just can't keep up. So he's starting to write really short and brief sentences. I don't think it's laziness. I think it's just his hands tired. So he's worked out, how can I get the least amount of sentences onto a piece of paper? So for him, his goals have really been fine motor. Absolutely. To get to fine motor, though, I've got to build up his core strength. I've got to build up his shoulder stabilization, which means I need to have him in crawling position, plank position, or climbing position. So, and that's tricky. You live in an apartment building. What could you possibly climb? There's no playground. So a lot of it has to be in that plank position. So plank position, you know, when your elbows on your toes and you're pushing a ball back and forth, those sorts of things. That's for Hugh. For other kids, so Phoebe's in preschool, developing her crossing the midline. Then all the activities that I give for Phoebe are around crossing the midline. But in general, it's aerobic exercise. It's whatever exercise will get this heart pumping. Whatever exercise will get the heart rate up so we get more oxygen to our brain, because that's what we want for kids, as much oxygen to our brain as we can, in a healthy way, of course, through exercise. So it's lots of jumping, hopping, dancing, skipping, anything that makes us, we call it huff and puff, is what we want kids to be able to do. That's all we need. Dancing in the lounge room, spinning in the kitchen without the oven on, all those sorts of things if we can.
Now, when we did this before and we actually had a lovely meeting, we had a couple of questions, and one of them was one which I'm going to do a little plug of Robyn's book because I love it. So I love this book. It's 125 play activities, and someone asked what age group was it for?
Yes, Candace. Sorry, Candace, we are going to use your name again. You're not here, but you were here before. Candace asked it's for ages 2 to 7. So around what you can do when you flick through the page on the side, you can actually flick through and see what ages it is. Yeah, thanks there, Ash. You can see. So the coloured pink means what age it's for, and then whether it's a sensory activity, partner activity, gross motor or fine motor activity. I made it so it's handbag size. So it goes in and out of your handbag. It's quite small book. Flick through it. There's Rob. He'd love that. That's the balloon tapping. Yeah,
that's right. I flicked it.
Yeah, there you go. Tap the balloon. And then the blue book, which I was so excited that you had on hand too, is there. That's your theory book. So Candace was asking what that book is for theory. It's all why crossing the midline, what does spatial awareness mean, why core strength. It's got activities in there as well, but a lot of it's more theory based. So thanks, Ash. It was great that you had it on hand earlier today because I'm terrible at marketing.
Oh, no, I love it. I absolutely love it. And like I said before, I actually use the blue book. So dance teachers, if you're watching it, especially for preschool classes, it's the basis of my snazzy jazzy program. I get so many ideas out of it, and one of the ones that I got from Robyn, I sort of stole a few ideas and combined them, was that I use a bean bag for the kids, and the kids think it's a fun game. They have no idea, but it's actually teaching them the difference between jumping and leaping, but also spatial awareness. So I put it on a fun song. They've got a bean bag. They have to throw it, run over to the bean bag, and then jump over it. Or when I go leap, then they have to leap over it. And we change back and forth. So not only are they working on their jumps and their leaps, but they're also working on the I guess, timing of seeing where everyone else is running, and spatial awareness, which is important in dancing when you're dancing with other people. But I think it's also important just in general, walking down the street and making sure that all those sorts of things. So I love that book. So give it a plug. And the other really great resource that Robyn has that I do want to mention is her mat. It's like a yoga mat with instructions on it and footprints and handprints. And it is, she made nearly 100 kinder ballet teachers do it in January into the room. I've also heard she does it at most of her workshops. And like these aren't expensive resources either. And we were talking about support small businesses. Here is one way, like it is, you could set up that yoga mat in your hallway and you know, there you go. Every time your kid does it, you fill up your wine glass a little bit more. So not sure if your followers are into that, but mine sure.
You have to ask them.
So there's that. So now one of the other questions that was raised was about crossing the midline. What can we do for kids that are a little bit older in upper primary, around 11, to help with crossing the midline?
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved Candice again. She gave some great questions today. I love that we sometimes think that all these motor development skills are just for the age when they're supposed to be. So for example, tummy time is just for babies, crawling is just for infants, and running is just for big kids. And it's trying to get the people away from the idea of these things don't happen by age, they happen by pattern. So everything goes in a sequence. It's not, well, when did you do it? It's, well, did you do it? And unfortunately, crossing the midline can really be missed in some children, especially our early walkers, our children that have been get up and go, and they've wanted to go from sitting to walking pretty quickly. They can miss out on that crossing the midline from crawling. So when we see older children, it could just be that they've just rushed through it. That could be purely personality of the child. You know, you could have a child like Isla who's just go, 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 and wants everything done and wants to do everything by herself, and there's no time for practice. So what we need to really try and do is, if we've missed a step, and crossing the midline may have been one of them for this little girl, then we've got to bridge the gap. The gap's there, we've got to bridge it. So it's got to go back to the basics. We can't go to an 11-year-old crossing the midline activity, unfortunately. We've got to go back to where the gap is. The gap might be, for example, she can only cross the midline with her upper body, but she can't yet cross the midline with her lower body. So then all we do is we just create a masking tape line on the ground, and we just tap right foot opposite, left foot opposite, and we just tap and see how we go. It might be that she needs to be in plank position or even in a sit-up position, and just take one hand across the body. See where her gaps are, and this is all children, see where their gaps are, see what they're struggling with, and just repeat it more. All the brain needs is practice for that area. So it's just practice, practice, practice. But when you've got an 11-year-old, it's also talk to them about their brain, educate them, you know, educate yourself about the brain. The brain grows through mistakes and practice. So mistakes for me are celebrated. Every time Hugh makes a mistake, amazing, because your brain's growing. But sometimes our kids can get stuck in, well, mistakes are bad and mistakes shouldn't happen. But that's how we learn. So it's trying to have those, see where the gaps are, and then lots of crawling, heaps of crawling. Crawl to chase a teddy bear, crawl to chase a ball, crawl to chase dad down the hallway, whatever you possibly can do. Because crawling is amazing for core strength, shoulder stabilization, crossing the midline, and even starts to get into fine motor when you put sensation through the hands. It's an amazing skill that unfortunately we rush through. I don't know why we get to 18 months and we rush it, but we're just rushing it too much.
Yeah, actually my daughter didn't crawl. She did the tummy army crawl.
Yeah. And all we do for that, it's just building up core strength. So all we do to get from army to proper crawling is we just set up some cushions to crawl across, or mum and dad's legs to crawl across. You just want the hips up off the ground. Yeah. But even then, army crawl still slightly crosses the midline. In some ways, some army crawls don't, but in some army crawl styles, it does. So we're still getting that information. But if you want to boost core strength even more, we just get up onto our knees a bit more by crawling over things. Yeah. So they were great questions by Candice. It was great.
No, they were fantastic. I think Robyn, we might need to organise a webinar for you to really dive into, because I know that I've got a lot of educators that follow my page that I'm sure would be dying to do. And now, since they were all stuck inside and we can't go out on Friday nights, it might be a great Friday night activity. You know, we need to, like, I know that we do also need to take care of ourselves, but for me, taking care of myself is also learning about new things. So I go and read, and that's me. So maybe we should do something, a webinar or something in a week or so. If you are interested in that, drop your emails in the comments, and we'll put you on the list.
The good thing would be, and what I've done with some gymnastics coaches as well, is bring your favorite resources. So bring, you know, for example, I know you love your maracas and your ribbons, and we could bring them. We could bring them into a webinar, and all we do is we chat amongst ourselves, because I'm not a dance teacher. So I use your skills as a dance teacher, and then I just put a child development spin on it. So that'll be fun. Just bring whatever you usually use in a class, and why not make it virtual? We can do it.
Yeah, I reckon we could too.
Yeah.
Well, did we have? I don't know if we've got any comments going, but if you do have any comments on the live, pop them in the box, and we'll ask. But
sorry, you can hear myself. I don't think there's any. I can't seem to see any.
Okay.
That's okay.
Sorry, that's my dog.
Technology. If anyone has any questions, please come through to Play Movie Preview. You're already there. Message me. Find Ash at Smashed It Dance Company. Thank you, Ash, for having me.
My pleasure. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that we did it finally after the effort today.
We have the Zoom recording and Facebook. Surely one of them has to work.
I know. Well, once again, thank you, Robyn. I always love talking to you. I think I'm even inspired now to go and see if I can create some virtual classes to get my kids even just a little bit moving and grooving. So we'll see what happens. But thank you again for your time, and thank you, everyone. I have seen some people watching, and we do like to ramble on, so I was hoping to have a nice short live, but I knew with the two of us it was never going to be short.
No. Well, again, please tell your team, your dance teams, that there's free resources on my website. There's morning routines that kids can do. There's ebooks on there that they can read. And then, of course, thank you for plugging my book. I'm so proud of those books, and I'm really glad that it's helping.
Go and buy them.
Thank you.
Like, honestly, if you're a dance teacher or an educator, early primary school, or even anyone that deals with children, parents, I can go and find out what I'm going to do tomorrow with my children. But yes, all right. So thank you so much, Robyn. It was a delight to talk to you as always.
Thanks, Ash. Thank you.
Bye.
See you.